What's going on, man?
Here we go again, man. I
Sir,
want to I want to thank everybody for going to our site, subscribing and liking our videos. We're over 300 now subscribers. We're growing exponentially and stuff. So thank y'all. And we got a big show this week. And we're gonna take next week off. So we're gonna try to make sure we can cover some other things besides the main topic this week and everything. So let's get started with it. You got anything else you want to say, brother?
nah, man, just thanks everybody, man, for hitting our site, listening to our content, man, and commenting, man. We're moving up, so let's
Yeah.
roll.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna talk a little bit about today about the Supreme Court. Has the Supreme Court finally became a political arm like the other two arms of our government? We're gonna look into that, and we also want to look into this why we always have 6-3 judgments and stuff.
Mhm.
6-3 every time you turn around for a body that's supposed to follow the law and precedents. There's a lot of 6-3s there, and we want to see predictable voting patterns, and we use Uncle Tom in resident Clarence Thomas to look at his voting record. Every time he vote, we pretty much know what he gonna do. Okay, so we gonna get started. Family, welcome to the Gens Making Sense, where we break down the system shaping our lives with honesty, clarity, and a whole lot of love for our people. I'm Marvin here with my brother Suleiman, and today we're gonna be stepping into a conversation that's been bobbling for years, but in 2026 is boiling over. We're asking a question that cuts right to the home of American democracy. Is the Supreme Court finally acting like a political arm of the government? Not just political in the sense that every institution has some kind of ideology, but political in a sense of predictability, outcomes, predictable alliances, and predictable 6-3 rulings that fall along the same ideological fault lines every single time. We're talking about a court that was once described as above politics, now issuing decisions that feel like deja vu. The same six justices on one side, the same three on the other side, case after case after case. Today, we're going to break that down, not with conspiracy, not with emotions alone, but with facts, history, and the lived experience of communities, especially Black communities, who feel the impact of these rulings. Let's get into it.
Third, for most of American history, the Supreme Court has been wrapped in this myth that it's neutral, apolitical, above the fray, that justices are these wise elders who interpret the Constitution like monks reading scripture. But that's never been fully true.
Exactly. The court has always reflected the politics of the moment. Think about Dred Scott. Think about Plessy versus Ferguson. Think about Shelby County versus Holder, which gutted the Voting Rights Act and hit Black voters like a freight train. The court has always been political, but what's different now is they're predictable. We're not watching 9 independent thinkers, we're watching 2 blocks, a conservative block of 6 and a liberal block of 3, and almost no crossover. That's not interpretations, that's alignment.
Good point, man.
Yeah,
So
we can talk about let's take a minute and talk about that. Let's go into that one. That's one that needs to be talked about. It we always, and when I say we, the American people always knew that when a justice was nominated by a president, be it Republican or Democrat, we knew that that judge had the temperament that that president was looking for. And I say temperament for the, lack of a better word. That president chose that judge because he had conservative values, or the president chose a judge because he had liberal values. But with that, and you always say, well, I always said myself, the law is the law. The law is the law. You can interpret it any kind of way you want to, but the bottom line, the law is the law. That hasn't been the case here lately. And you can see by the voting block, conservative voting blocks, liberal voting block. And it's always 63-63. Every now and then, the Chief Justice will go over on the liberal side along with Amy Coney Barrett, I believe. Those two will switch over to that side every now and then. And surprisingly, okay, help me out. What's the black justice name? I should go to
It's
hell for
Justice
this.
Thomas. Justice Thomas.
No, not him. He's not black.
Jackson.
Yeah,
Jackson.
Justice Ketanji Jackson, she went over to the conservative side on one or two rulings and stuff. But what do you think? What do you say, Suleiman?
Yeah, I mean, there's not more to add to it than that. I mean, we know who Justice Thomas is. He's always been this way. I mean, I don't know what it is about him that he dislikes his own people, that he dislikes himself, he dislikes his own color, and he votes against basic rules of the country. I mean, I will push back and say the Supreme Court has always been political, but now it's just corrupt. It's not just that they're political; they're corrupt. They don't make decisions based upon precedent. They don't make decisions based upon what's best for the country. They make decisions on who's going to line their pockets the most, and that's all they're about. Justice Roberts, Gorsuch, Barrett. I mean, Barrett's the most unqualified Supreme Court justice in the history of the country, and the fact that she sits on the Supreme Court shows you how corrupt that body of government it is. Clarence Thomas sits up there, doesn't ask questions, doesn't probe what people are or what they're trying to change in our country, and then he votes the way they tell him to. He's just a clown. They lead him around with a dog collar on. He's been that way for 20-something years on the bench.
Yep, he's just a clown.
Yep.
He's
I mean, it's
just
like
a
dancing.
clown.
He's like, how high, or dancing
Mm.
how fast, and it's
Mhm.
ridiculous. I mean, you're at the highest level of your profession.
Mhm.
They can't remove you. Have a little bit of dignity, have a little bit of respect for yourself, because the reality is that he's an old man, and he doesn't
He
have many years left on this earth.
he can barely
So
walk now.
right, and so you have to look at it like, I mean, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want your kids' legacy to be? And I think that I think he's given up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up corrupt. I didn't bring it up, but I'm glad you brought it up. Clarence Thomas is living his best life, riding around in private jets, going on
All
hunting
over the
trips,
country, all over the
going on
world. Yep.
fishing trips. Not only
Mhm.
him, Justice Alito is to me, he's the Chief Justice because because everybody follows him pretty much. So, and he's taking all these bribes and money and everything. Call it what it is. It's bribes, man. When you're taking, when you gonna hear some of the cases that they hear, and you hanging out with the people that are involved in the case, that's corruption, and it's illegal. And for some reason, we can't seem to do anything about it as American people and stuff.
Because the people that have money in this country control the three levels of government. And that's the problem. And then when you put people in charge, or you put people in positions that have money, that don't have to live life every day, don't have to go to the grocery store, don't have to do the things that normal people do, they don't care. So corporations now are corrupt. They're all in line, all in business with the three levels of government right now. They're all gutting the country and trying to cut back on things, the social part of the country that has always been in existence. I mean, I think we're going to talk about it later, but you just look at the last case they decided on, the birthright. I
Yeah.
mean, why does anybody think that they decided the way they decided on birthright? Well,
Hmm.
one, the majority of the people in power in this country are married to foreigners.
Yeah.
Okay, they go out and get foreigners and bring them back to the country. Hell, the president of the United States is married to a foreigner.
Last
So
two
they don't want
wives.
that to go away, because those are their kids
Mhm.
that we're talking about. They don't care about some poor woman coming from somewhere overseas and coming to the United States and having a kid. They don't care about that. What they care about is they want to be able to marry foreign women. They want to be able to impregnate foreign women, and they want
Mhm.
their children to be Americans. That's why they voted 6-3. And I'm sorry, I think it was 7-2, right?
Yeah, it was 7-2, but it felt more like, they said it felt more
They had
like
two. I'm sorry, they had 3 or 4 conservative justices vote to say you can't take
yeah,
birthright citizenship away.
yeah, yeah,
And like I said, we know what that's about. It has nothing to do with the American people. What it has to do with is rich people in this country want to be able to have children by foreign women, and they
mhm,
want their children to be Americans. So the Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to do away with that. That's all this about.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty transparent what they're doing. Let's not get it twisted, let's not get it wrong, we're not saying that at some point in time, liberal judges may have taken something that they weren't supposed to take either. But it's more prevalent on the conservative side. And that's the thing, that being a conservative justice is an oxymoron, because you're conservative, but you're liberal about taking money and bribes. You know,
I'm not
I'm
conservative.
like, so no, it don't
I'm not
make good
conservative.
sense. Yeah,
That whole concept of saying you're conservative is a lie. And it's
yeah,
always been a lie.
yeah.
So
We're gonna move on to the rise of the 6th Street era.
let's talk about the last 2 years, because this is where the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. News outlets have documented multiple major 6-3 rulings, all falling along the same ideological lines. These include temporary protected status, TPS cases. The court allowed the administration to end protections for Haitians and Syrian immigrants, 6-3. Asylum processing cases. The court narrowed when asylum seekers are considered in the in the U.S. for legal purposes, 6-3. Asylum turned back policy revival. The court permitted systematic turnbacks at the southern border, 6-3. 2 immigration cases decided the same day, both 6-3, both with the same lineup.
Man, it's not just immigration. We're seeing 6-3 splits in environmental cases, administrative power cases, and criminal justice cases.
Yeah. I mean, follow the money. I mean, that's
Yeah,
what I say all the time to people. Follow the money. Who benefits from these cases? It's not the American people. It's not the 320 million people in the United States. It's not. It's rich corporations, rich white men for the most part, who are robbing the government in broad daylight.
yeah.
I mean, in broad daylight. I mean,
Mhm.
what did the Supreme Court decide on? Money and politics. They basically gutted all of the standards and all of the limitations on people buying politicians. And now you see exactly what those cases did. All politicians, all of them. The majority of them on the Republican side, but the majority of congressmen and senators are bought and sold. They can't get elected without having a ton of money. They can't get reelected without having a ton of money. Congressmen get 2 years. They spend 2 years running for Congress. They get elected. They do 6 months, maybe 9 months of actual work as a politician, and then they spend the next year and a half trying to get reelected for another 2 years.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, it do it. Okay. Next one is yours.
right. And here's the thing: I'm not saying the outcomes are automatically wrong. I'm saying the pattern is undeniable. When you can predict the vote before the arguments even begin, when you can predict the dissent before the briefs are even filed, when you can predict the ideological alignment before the case is even granted. That's not jurisprudence. That's politics.
Exactly. And I hope that the people that see our podcast and comment, they'll hear this statement, because they'll gloss all over what you just said right there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We're not saying that the cases are being judged wrong. We're saying that it's political still, you know? We're gonna move on to section 3 and predictable of certain justices. This is when we get to the personal part of it. Let's talk about the justices themselves because this is where the conversation gets real. We're not going to attack individuals. That's a lie. I am going to attack an individual. We're not going to question motives, but we are going to talk about patterns.
On the conservative side, you have a bloc that votes together with near perfect consistency in cases involving immigration, voting access, executive power, regulatory authority, criminal procedures, civil rights enforcement. On the liberal side, you have three justices who almost always dissent together in those same cases. And look, disagreement is normal, but perfect alignment, that's not normal. That's corruption. That's not 9 independent justices. That's 2 teams.
Teams. Exactly. And when you look at the opinions, the language sometimes reads like 2 different countries, 2 different philosophies, 2 different visions of what America is supposed to be.
Exactly. And that's where people start asking, is the court interpreting the Constitution or advancing an ideology?
I will say unequivocally they're advancing ideology. They're not interpreting the Constitution. And the thing about the interpretation of the Constitution that gets me is people say, well, the Constitution came about a long time ago. Yeah, that don't mean that we just throw it out the window without debate and everything. And 2 people, well, 9 people shouldn't be able to predict what's going on in our country. It shouldn't be able to tell what's going on in the country. If you think the Constitution is outdated, let's put a plan together to go through the Constitution and let's get it up to date. But it's got to be the American people. It's got to be the American people. It can't be 9 justices or 1 president that's it. You got to have legislation to change the Constitution.
And I mean, the reality is, I'll make it really simple, is when liberal justices or Democratic justice, whatever you want to call them, were in charge, all the conservative movement was the Constitution is the Constitution. Let's not change it. It wasn't meant to be changed. It, was
Yep.
written the way it was written. We don't need to be
Yep.
a setting precedent. That was all you heard from state-run news, state-run Fox News, and all the conservatives. But now that the conservatives are in charge, the Constitution is a living document, and it should be changed based upon the time. And that's all you hear now. Every decision is like, oh, we should change it because it was an incorrect decision. I've never heard justice say about previous justice that something was decided incorrectly. Justice Thomas said that about the previous Supreme Court. But that's what they did. When they're in charge, is we do things differently, but when Democrats are in charge, it's, oh, we should honor the Constitution. We should keep it the same. It wasn't meant to be changed. So, I mean, that's the game they play. They've been playing that for, 250 years in this country.
Yep. The American people need to wake up to the fact that this is what's happening. You're being played. We, the American people, are being played. So just let that sink in. What does it mean to our Black community? That's what we really want to get into. Let's bring this home because the Black community's Supreme Court decisions aren't abstract, they are lived. When the court limits voting access, we feel it. When the court narrows civil rights enforcement, we feel it. When the court expands police authority, we feel it. And when the court restricts immigration protection, our families feel it. And when the court becomes predictable, when you know the outcome before the case even starts, it creates a sense of powerlessness. Because how do you advocate? How do you fight? How do you advocate? How do you fight? How do you push for justice when the highest court in the land feels locked into a 6-3 script?
And that's why people are asking whether the court is functioning as a political arm. Not because they hate the court, but because they're watching patterns that look less like law and more like ideology.
Yeah, that's the big everything right there. All those things we talked about in that section, like I said, it's not abstract. It affects the Black community. And here lately, I remember there was a time when the Supreme Court wouldn't even take cases. They would just, the lower court did their job. We're not going to mess with it. It
Stay
used to do it
silent
all the
on it.
time. They used to sit there it was like, in January, it was like the news agency would sit there and watch the Supreme Court and see what cases they take. And for the most part, a lot of those Supreme Court justice case in big cases, they would let the law stand. They wouldn't mess with it. This
Because see,
Supreme Court takes every case that comes up now.
but that's what, like I said, that's because when Republicans are in charge of the Supreme Court, that they don't have a problem with Big Brother. They don't have a problem with the federal government coming in and telling states or different, telling states what they should do. And that's what happens. So state Supreme Courts or judges within a state make a decision, and the Supreme Court says we're going to come in and we're going to make the decision over top of you. So it's Big Brother when we want it to be Big Brother, but it's not Big Brother when the other side is in charge. And that's the way they've always been. This is not anything new. This is the way they operate as politicians. Like right now in Congress, in the Senate, what have they accomplished? They've accomplished nothing.
Nothing.
Not a single bill worth
Nothing.
anything. We got a government that's run on Band-Aids because
Well,
Trump runs around and signs executive orders, which have no power whatsoever.
Mm.
The second that he leaves, or the second that Congress, the Democrats win Congress, it's over. Everything he put in place will be peeled back.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And what's so bad about it is that without these laws, and Congress did put together one bill, not the big beautiful bill, but a bill that will help American families buy homes. And what did Donald Trump say? No, I'm not going to sign it until you rig the voting right, the SAFE Act, the voting rights thing. Yeah, this is crazy.
You talked about it last time.
Mm.
There is no illegal voting in this country. We all know that. Everybody knows there's no illegal voting in this country. Donald Trump got beat, and he's mad that he got beat. And all the Republicans are hook, line, and sinker behind him to try to change the fact that you lost the presidential election. I mean, now they want to go down to Georgia and investigate the voting rolls in Georgia because he lost by 12,000 votes down. And so let's take the political power of the United States government and go down and investigate a state or people within that state that that did their job.
Yeah, exactly.
And let me just say one more thing. I'll finish up by saying this, is that it's not going to work. And the same people that are out here now, all these so-called Republicans that are out here now using the government against the American people, there's going to be a time when it's going to be used against you. You can believe that when the script is flipped and Democrats have power, that the same things that is being done now to them, they are going to do to you.
Right. You're exactly right. Okay, so what we're going to try to do now for all our ugly and comments that we'll get, we'll try to do a fair and balanced breakdown for you. We don't really care, but we're going to try to do our best to be fair and balanced on it. And sometimes I think we do that to a fault. You can't be fair with just ignorance sometimes. You just can't do it. So, but we're going to try it here on Gents Making Sense, okay? Let's be fair. Let's be balanced. Let's break down both sides of the argument. Argument 1. Yes, the court is political. People point to consistent 6-3 ideological split, the predictability of certain justice, the alignment with political party priorities, the impact on voting rights, immigration, executive power, the lack of swing votes compared to past courts.
Argument 2. No, the court is not political. Others argue. Justices follow judicial philosophy, not party loyalty. Originalism and textualism lead to consistent outcomes. The court has always had ideological blocks. Predictability doesn't equal partnership. The court still rules unpredictably in some cases, and both sides have points. But the question isn't whether the court is political, it's whether the court is functioning like a political arm.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Mm-hmm.
And that depends on whether you believe the Sixth Street pattern reflects philosophy or power. Another good
Yeah.
one.
And I mean, I think, just to add on to that, I do believe the court is politically motivated. They are. I mean, and the decisions show you exactly what they're doing. The Voting Rights Act, again, that wasn't a decision based upon the entirety of the country. That was a decision based upon taking access away from a particular group of people in this country. That's all it was. Everybody knows, all the justices that sit up there with it, maybe no, not even Jackson, because she's older than me, but all the justices up there experienced exactly what it is that they voted against.
Mm-hmm.
All of them were 60 and 70 years old. They all lived through the civil rights movement. They all lived through all the things the states were doing to keep Black folks from voting. And then they were sat up there and made the decision to cut all that out. There's no oversight for states that that are making it more difficult to vote. You had a state in Georgia down there where you lived that wanted to prevent people from providing water and food to people standing
Yeah.
in line.
Yeah. Certain
What does
counties
that
and
have to
stuff.
do with voting?
Mm.
You got states who want to limit the amount of time that people can go and vote. Listen, I've been all over the world and I've seen voting, corrupt and good voting. We're the only country in the world that limits our voting as far as days are concerned. Why do we all have to vote between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. at night? Why isn't voting a weekend or voting an entire week? Why does it have to be a certain amount of time? It's not going to change. Why not give every citizen in this country the opportunity to go and vote by saying voting will be Monday to following Monday? Does it matter if we find out who the president is a week from when we normally find out or 2 weeks? Why does it have to be that night that we find out who the president
That's
of
a
the
good
United States
point.
is?
That's a good
It
point.
just
I never
doesn't make
thought
any
about
sense.
that.
Right. It's because they want to limit the people who don't vote for the powerful from voting, and that's typically African Americans. So they want to limit it. They know we have to go to work, or people who are working class people have to go to work in the morning. They know they can't typically take off. I'm fortunate enough to work in a job where I can leave, go and vote anytime during the day, come in late, leave early. But a lot of people don't. They work in industries like steel and cars and those type of jobs where you can't walk off to go vote. And the Supreme Court justice just took that ability away from them. But then they want to sit there and say that we're a free country and push that lie around the country about how free we are and that we vote for our elected officials. So anyway, go ahead.
You bring up a good point. You would think that something as important as voting on the people that will represent us would not be limited to one day. Now they're gonna say a lot of states have early voting that lasts anywhere from a week to 2 weeks. Those are basically Democratic states, though. Republican states don't have those long period of times for
That's true. But
yeah.
even with that, okay, I
Mhm.
mean, we always talk about trying to make voting as easy as possible. There are
Mhm.
people out there that are not like you and I
Yeah,
that might
exactly.
have a difficult time on getting to the place or going online and requesting that ballot is sent to you. Okay. Or more importantly, understanding how to fill it out. There's no one sitting at your kitchen table with somebody who's 56 years old or somebody who's uneducated and teaching them how to fill out a ballot. None of that. They still have to turn around and either put it in the mail. Some some places you don't even mail it. Some places you got to take it to a drop box.
Right. Exactly.
So they have to get out of their house. They have to either drive or walk to a drop box. We know that drop boxes are not in convenient places. They put them up at your government center or your city hall or somewhere like that. Well, what if you don't live close to the city hall? You got to catch a bus or you got to drive. So it's always difficult for people to vote as opposed to just somebody walking to their local neighborhood like we used to be able to do
Mhm.
and voting at your local elementary school.
Right. So now we get to the important part. What's the next step? What does all this mean for the future? We're entering a period where Supreme Court legitimacy is being questioned. Public trust is declining. Communities feel unheard. The court's decisions are reshaping voting, immigration, and civil rights. The ideology split is hardening, not softening. And when the court becomes predictable, democracy becomes fragile. Because the court is supposed to be the referee, not the player. Go ahead.
I'm telling you, man, I'm having a hard time today.
That's all right.
We on segment 5 or 4?
We're on segment 6.
6, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Now I'm on argument. No, hold on.
No, you at the bottom 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And when the referee looks like they're wearing one team's jersey, people stop believing in the game.
In the game.
And
Exactly.
that is it. Go ahead.
That hits the nail right
That
on the
hits it
head.
right there, man.
Yeah. That hits a nail on the head. I used to say when Donald Trump won the first term and everybody was going crazy and everything, I used to say, that's okay. As long as we got the courts, we're okay. Because the courts are going to do the right thing. I can't say that no more. Can't say it no more.
Our whole conversation.
The Supreme Court has joined the fray. They're no longer the referee. They've joined the fray.
They've never been a referee.
Yeah.
They've never been a referee. And over the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, since there's been a conservative majority, they're corrupt. And you see it in your country. I mean, people can sit here, like I said, people can go around and lie all around the world talking about how great United States is. Really? Show me how great it is. We're not number one in education.
Family, here's where I land. Here's where I land and say with all humility, with honesty and with love for our country and our people, the Supreme Court is at a crossroad. Not because of one decision, not because of one justice, but because of a pattern, a rhythm, a drumbeat, 6-3 rulings that feel less like interpretation and more like ideology. And if the court wants to preserve its legitimacy, it has to confront that perception head on. Because democracy doesn't survive on laws alone, it survives on trust. And trust is built on unpredictability, on the belief that every case is judged fresh, not predetermined by ideology. We're not asking for perfection. We're asking for independence. We're asking for fairness. We're asking the court that feels like a court, not a political arm. Thank you for rocking with us today. Thank you for thinking deeply, questioning boldly, and loving fiercely. This is Gents Making Sense. I'm Marvin, and Suleiman. Get it.
And here's my on another note, man. It's kind of funny, but we
Okay.
called it. Everybody, most of the people in this country called it. This this America 250 fair that the president's got going on right now down on the mall and places like that, and it's a complete disaster. No one's showing up. You got musicians, Z-list musicians singing to 1 to 2 people. Nobody's visiting the state booths. You had North Carolina, the contractor that was decorating their booth had changed their flag to have a Confederate flag on it, which caused an uproar. I know that my wife works in the hospitality business, and I know that people have been canceling reservations. No one's showing up for this clown show. And it's because of him. I don't have any doubt in my mind that most Americans will be willing to celebrate 250 years of our country. I don't think that anyone would have any issue with that. But when he's involved with it, there's always a racial component to it. There's always a "we're better than you" type of American component to it, and nobody wants to be involved with that. I mean, people have other issues to worry about, whether going downtown and listening to him ramble for 2 hours talking about nothing, or his idiotic administration, standing up and having a comment. So this is par for course for this administration. It's a failure, and it's going to be a failure because of the person that's involved with it, which is Donald Trump. So I'll end with that.
Good, good. At worst, man. My on another note is the same idiot Donald Trump that's enriching himself off the backs of American people. The same Donald Trump that said Bitcoin was a ruse, whether it was a scam, that nobody should invest in Bitcoin. That was his first term as a president. So what happened? The Biden administration put regulations on Bitcoin and decided that, yeah, we need to regulate this industry. So in comes Donald Trump for a second term, knowing that he didn't have to run no more. And he says, I'm getting rid of all the regulations. Boom, regulations gone. And now, guess what? I got a Trump coin now. And it's gonna go not live, but what it is, go public. It's gonna go public. And it starts out at 46. The IP starts at $46 per coin. So all these people are investing $46 per coin. One lady invested $2,000 of her money into this coin, and it went up for a short period of time, but it has gone down. Guess what that coin is worth right now? $2. So everybody that bought that coin but didn't get out right away has lost a ton of money. That lady that invested $2,000, her investment now is worth $20. I think she said, or $200, $20. Yeah. So he went right in on the scam. He was taught how to do the scam, and now he just did it better.
That's what they do, man. I mean, it's all a grift, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, there's going to be books written about how corrupt Republicans in this administration are and how much money they stole from the American people years down the line. Probably after you and I are no longer here, but there are going to be people to write books about how corrupt this administration is.
Okay. Well, good job, man. Once again, it was a good show. We want to make sure that everybody tune in. We will not be on air next. We won't be on air next week, but we'll have some stuff out there for you. So until then, enjoy America 250. Celebrate the way you feel is best.
Man, good show, man. Good show.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, man.